I'm sure the men in this room are a complete exception to that. Or you wouldn't be here, right? And your mere presence here will keep you safe in the upcoming feminist revolution. But in a general kind of way, males gain power as they grow older and replace their fathers, and women lose power as we grow older and replace our mothers. So actually, those of us who may have been saying at 20 or 30, well, everything is over and everything's fine and everything's equal and I'm going to be different anyway and it's not going to affect me and so on and so on, are saying that at 20 or even 30, and by 50 they're mad as hell. Maybe an army of gray-haired women will take over the earth. So some of it is a function of age, and some of it is a function of the kind of information we get. So I just want to say a couple of words about how bad it is, so then we can move forward with how we're going to change all that. How many of you are going to graduate in debt, in any kind of school debt? Maybe about a third of you or more, half, something like that. Now, this makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, this state has a good initiative in high school students being able to go to a community college tuition free. That's a good step forward, and other states should imitate that. But in most advanced democracies in the world, higher education is free. The debt in which the average US student now graduates is higher than the average debt of an entire average household. The debt has gone up 30% just since George Bush took office. And those two things are related. Student loans have also gone down, and that's related because of the arrangements about interest and so on. We can change that, and we have to change that. In 1979, the average CEO of a Fortune 500 company earned 40 times the wages of an average worker. You care to guess what the ratio is now? 424 times. 424 times the income of the average worker. No CEO is worth that much. None. And it is not true. In other countries, it's not helping our productivity even. It certainly has nothing to do with economic justice. Take the situation of slavery in this country. We have a kind of dim memory that it was going on in the 1800s, right? And we believe, by and large, I would say, that it's now over. We don't even understand slavery then because we don't understand that American Indians were also taken as slaves by the thousands, by Spain, put in ships. Only barely half of them made it even to Spain, then they were sold as slaves in Europe. We think only of African slavery, and we don't know enough about that, right? But I would say that probably most Americans think slavery is over. In fact, sex and labor slavery is now a greater proportion of the world population than it has ever been, far higher than it was in the 1800s. Sex and labor slavery are profitable on a par with the drug trade and the arms trade. They're all juggling for first, second, and third place. Perhaps you just saw in the newspapers the fact that sex trafficking is going on Craigslist. It was put as if it were all voluntary prostitution, but in fact children are being sold on Craigslist. Children are being sold as on the internet, bid for on the internet. Children from the Estans, children from Mexico, and sometimes children from here, and collected at houses in New Jersey, near where I live. This is going on now. We have never, I think, been, in my lifetime anyway, in such a situation of at odds with the leadership of our country over a question of war and peace. Even the Vietnam era was not as polarized as this. Even the Vietnam era had more ways of opinion in the street and in the ballot box being felt in the places of power. Now we are not entirely sure that we trust even the way we vote because of the use of machines that are so cheap and easily fixed. There's now legislation in Congress at this moment to do something about that. So this is a good moment in time to reform that system. There's a bill that would create a paper record while using these machines, but nonetheless there would have to be a paper record so that it could be checked. So, you know, we are at a very crucial juncture in time. You know, I think the Chinese say that crisis is the ideogram is both emergency and opportunity, right? I think there's also a Yiddish curse, may you live in interesting times. For that, both things are true. And yet all of this is also an enormous opportunity. I think we understand we are globally connected on this earth. The environmental movements have shown that. I think we understand that it matters who's president. If George Bush has done nothing for us except that, he's demonstrated that it matters who's president. Maybe 20 years ago, more voters were saying it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect me. Now we know that it does affect us. So we are at this crucial juncture. And the truth of the matter is that if we want to make change, if we want to make a more humane, fun, loving, music-filled, humor-filled, community-filled life for all of us, it is an endeavor that starts at the bottom, not at the top. Revolutions are like houses. They are not built from the top down. They are built from the bottom up. That's the only way to make lasting change. The greatest adversary is the effort of the perhaps unconscious, perhaps not, of the media or of the big entities of global corporations or of the government itself that end, consciously or not, in making the individual feel disempowered. It's that sense of feeling disempowered that is the greatest problem, because everything we do matters. The art of behaving ethically and effectively and having a good time is behaving as if everything we do matters. Because the truth is we don't know which thing that we do will matter. How we treat someone, the language we use, whether we simply say in our places of work, let's everybody tell our salaries to each other. It's the one thing we know. Imagine what could happen, right? Because we have fallen into, in this country, a voting situation in which the 30%, more or less 30% of the country that has what you might describe as a very conservative or ultra-right-wing view votes 90% of its membership. And the 70% of the country that has what you might call a centrist to progressive view votes maybe 40%. The margin of elections is very, very slender. Our individual votes matter more than they ever have before. And if I have any message to end on the note of young women and young men, where I started, if I have any message, it's just have higher standards. Trust your detectors.